Good day to everyone. My name is François Gilles. I work at the European Investment Bank in our advisory services, specifically in a team supporting innovative companies, a team initially created under the Innofin program, working to support innovative companies in finding their way to relevant EIB products. Alongside that, what we do also has to do with SMEs, and this is going to be the purpose of my presentation. So walking you through a bit of our perspective on SME financing in the current period. So I will start. Obviously, we are still, and perhaps starting to come out. We are still in the sort of aftermath of the COVID crisis. Just to pick up on a couple of economic measures, there are many, but the decline in the second quarter of 2020 has been very significant. For example, here, both in terms of industrial production or in terms of GDP in the union. So very significant decline, obviously picking up in the third quarter in recent months, but obviously a very significant impact for the European economy. And obviously, as we know, SMEs are the backbone of the European economy, and they represent over 99% of European businesses. So this is obviously a very big deal for small and medium-sized companies. And in fact, recent studies show that a very significant percentage of SMEs are reporting specific COVID-related financing issues. And these issues may have to do with simple things. When revenue starts to decline, it's about covering your fixed costs. It's about covering the costs that you cannot eliminate in the short term. It's obviously about also maintaining a healthy level of revenue and turnover. And it's about maintaining the continuity of your business and continuing to develop your business, whether domestically or internationally. So I think what we hear from the market is that obviously this is a very severe crisis for SMEs. And if we were to have had this discussion perhaps a year ago, I think the key themes that we probably at European level have been promoting have to do with innovation and digitalization, that we see as key vectors to help companies become more competitive, let's say in the global marketplace, and in particular SMEs that we know are less digitalized versus larger companies. So I think I want to make the link here because especially because of this crisis, it's a bit ironic that digitalization sort of becomes highly digitalized companies are actually more resilient in front of sudden declines in their activity, and so basically not all companies are equal in this crisis, and that I think that's an important point of context to make in this introduction. So I also want to make the point that faced with this crisis, Europe has put a number of measures, financing measures forward. I just want to highlight three here on this list that specifically have to do with SMEs. One is what the EIB itself has announced in the spring, announcing 40 billion of resources to reinforce existing schemes that support SMEs, so mainly intermediated financing schemes, whether guarantee schemes or liquidity lines to banks. Second, probably the well-known COSME guarantee facility that has been reinforced as well by the EIF and the European Commission to provide better terms to small and medium-sized companies. Again, this is a program that works on an indirect, so intermediate basis. And then finally, the Pan-European Guarantee Fund that has been announced with up to 25 billion in guarantees that will, again, to a large extent, come as indirect funding mechanism for lending programs by financial intermediaries to small and medium-sized companies. So I think financing measures have been taken. I think that is certainly a good thing. But I think where, at least on my side, I come in is really on the non-financial dimension, and And I think perhaps building on the point that I was making in the introduction, because in spite of this crisis that brings all these short-term challenges, just keeping the business afloat and liquidity and things like that, it remains equally important to keep high on the agenda the notion of making the business more resilient, making the business more innovative, making the business more digital. And in that sense, non-financial support, advisory support remains very, very important. I just want to quote one number. We just released a few months ago a study on the role of digital innovation hubs in Europe, and we were very impressed that 70% of the companies that we consulted in this study reported that they have used the services of a digital innovation hub in their region. I think that's a very supportive fact to showcase the importance of support mechanisms, whether they're a digital innovation hub or whether they're other types of support agencies for companies to develop their digital projects, develop their investment projects, innovation projects, to find the right financing tools, to build the right skills and capabilities, and to find their way through the arguably quite complex tools and financing solutions that are available to them. So with that being said, I'd like to then tell you what we do specifically, and I'll speak. I come from EIB Advisory Services, and in my team specifically, what we do that's related to SMEs is a combination of things. One, we provide direct support to innovative SMEs. That's what you see on the left side of this page. And that's typically for companies that we find have prospects of financeability by our institution, obviously. So these are companies that would, typically be eligible for one of our impact financing instruments. And we help them, guide them, and coach them in sort of in that journey. Then in the middle of this page, what we do is support certain what we call ecosystem stakeholders in SME ecosystem stakeholders in developing solutions relevant for SMEs. And I'll just highlight that we work with, for example, Cotec in Portugal and in Italy on assessing the state of financing and digitalization for SMEs in their countries. And we've also worked with the Irish government on the same issue in Ireland. And then the third dimension that we do is a bit more upstream, and typically in closer collaboration with the European Commission. We work on market studies, and I just quoted one of those studies, the one we just did on digital innovation hubs. So market studies that have to do basically with the financing of with the digital economy in general and digitalization of SMEs, but also more broadly on a number of access to finance issues in several sectors where obviously SMEs play a key role. And then I would like to close with also mentioning what my colleagues at the European Investment Advisory Hub are doing in terms of supporting the SME ecosystem. I think they launched, the hub this year launched a proposal for basically an envelope, a support envelope for programs carried out by national promotional banks or local promotional agencies to basically support their efforts in developing investment advisory capabilities and basically non-financial support, including to SMEs that is meant basically to help companies access financing. I think obviously you will be well familiar with this program because both Bpi and CDP have been beneficiaries of this program. But I think this is one example that shows how we try to support SMEs and to support the development of relevant capabilities in the different markets in the different member states to help SMEs make their business more resilient and find the right financing solutions for their needs. Well, I hope this was useful, and I will stop there.
Thank you, François. I'm Simon Robert. I'm head of development of the extra financial support at Bpi France. For us, before the crisis, our aim was to strengthen through our extra financial support services the SMEs by helping them being more resilient and by boosting their growth through training, advisory, and also through connecting them and mixing these three dimensions in collective programs such as the accelerator program, the SME accelerator program that we develop with the support of the EIB. As regards France and the impact of the crisis on the French economy and the French market, I think we are quite in line with what François explained at the European level, with a fall of the French GDP expected to be around 8 to 9% in 2020, with cash flows that deteriorated sharply in the spring. And also investments expected to fall, and thus. In fact, Bpi France was here with the support of Europe, with the support of the French state, in order to bring the short-term debt that the companies needing to face the short-term issues in terms of continuity of the business and management of the working capital. But we are pretty sure that this context emphasis on the criticity of the extra financial support, and that the weakened French SMEs need to be supported through extra financial support, and advisory could be key in this context. And we think that the support, as François says, has to be both sustainable and digital in order to help the SMEs bounce back from the crisis, but in a new way, and make them more resilient and also more agile as regards the evolution of the market. Thus, our answer as regard our extra financial support offer has been to structure from the outbreak of the crisis some new advisory diagnosis in order to face the main dimensions that the business owners, the SMEs owners, were facing in the spring, and that they are facing in the coming months. Thus, we launched 3 new advisory diagnoses. One, so the 360 recovery diagnosis with the aim of having a great overviews of the SME current situation in order to check what's the impact of the crisis, what are the opportunities also that are raised by the crisis, because we talk a lot about the sectors that are really badly affected by the crisis, but in some areas it can be sources of opportunities. And so in this context, we help the SMEs owners taking the most of the recovery, helping them to action the right levers in order to boost their business in the context if possible. On top of that, we develop a cash management diagnosis in order to face two different situations, in order to help companies that have a sensitive situation in terms of cash because of a loss of business. And so we help them work on their working capital in order to generate some cash and help them think about the future rather only managing their very short-term cash. And for those who have a very strong recovery in some business where the working capital is very important, high growth of revenues in a few weeks or a few months can damage the cash situation of the companies. And so in also that situation, through this cash management diagnosis, we help the company improve its cash situation. And third topic, for us, it was very critical in terms of business continuity to help the industrial companies secure the recovery of their industrial chains. And thus, this has two dimensions: inside the plant, inside the factory, because some of them closed their facilities, and so we help them do all the right check before relaunching their operations. And on top of that, we do a strong work helping the industrial companies secure their supply chain, sometimes by rethinking their procurement strategy in the light of the COVID crisis. Thus, we deploy quite massively this program. These are advisory diagnoses lasting from 5 to 10 days, according to the company size and the topic we have to tackle. And it helps us through this advisory lever to help the French SMEs bounce back from the crisis. On top of that, and I'm going to let the floor to my colleague from GDP, Sergio Silvia Baradas. We work in very close collaboration with GDP, sharing our initiatives, our best practices, and also building common initiatives when relevant.
Thank you, Timon. Hello, everybody. I am Sergio Silva from Bpi Italy, where I am head of commercial planning and control for the corporate business division. Well, first of all, I want to thank Bpi France for inviting me to take part in this very, very important event. We're very glad to be here. I'm representing the CDP, of course. What I can say is that we started to work very, very closely with Bpi France from a couple of years. We have developed a very strong partnership because we share a lot of things. We share the market approach. We share the idea that the best way of supporting our economies, our respective economies, is to assist companies and businesses. Our collaboration is founded also on the fact that our economies are quite closely tied. As you can see, we have some statistics here. Italy represents the third client and supplier to France, and France represents the second client and supplier to Italy. We have a number of sectors in which we have high synergies, starting from automotive, which I guess in the future can only grow, chemical, clothing, that includes all fashion and luxury, industrial machinery and pharma. France is the first investor in Italy. Italy is the 8th investor in France, so we do have a lot of things in common. And starting from this, so having in mind our strong belief that supporting our companies is a good way to support our economies. One very important way of supporting companies is not only giving financial assistance, but it's also giving training, advisory, giving those things that are not easily found in the market. And developing a program together is something that, based on our common approach and the relevance for each other's economy, we decided. So we started implementing a program, a common program, an advisory program, if you want to call it like that. It's a French-Italian accelerator. And a very important thing, this is the very first European cross-border initiative for SMEs. We have the ambition of using this program to develop to foster French and Italian companies' relationships. Our main targets are boosting bilateral collaboration, improving innovation and digital approach of our companies, and this by sharing best practices and enriching each other's experiences to grow together, fostering cross-border investments, and that is, we already have very relevant investments for each other. But we are convinced that this is something we can strengthen and develop. Sharing a common business culture. After all, we are partners and we are neighbors. As we saw, we have a lot of relevance for each other's economy. So developing a common business culture could be a great thing. So sharing our approaches and enrich each other's culture, creating some sort of common business culture is really relevant. And why not getting ready to better understand each other's market. So French companies understanding how to address the Italian market and vice versa, Italian companies understanding how to address the French market. That's something that we are very, very interested in. And not only from the cultural perspective, but going to the practical things. So what's the regulatory implications, labor laws, fiscal approach, etc. So we are building this French-Italian accelerator with this in mind, and the main pillars we are working on are three. First one, consulting. So we start by making a diagnosis. So once a company has applied and has been admitted to the program, which is going to last 18 months, we start with making a diagnosis and find one or two specific modules that could be of interest for the company. So we identify specific topics to be addressed during the program. Then we start with 6 training sessions of 2 days, which are going to be developed 3 in Italy and 3 in France. Of course, we are thinking nowadays it's very important to have this in mind, an e-learning approach. And of course, we strongly believe that there's a lot of value in making this a program in which there can be a relevant, approach to networking. Networking is very, very important. That's the best way to share and to apply each other's experiences. So French entrepreneurs and Italian entrepreneurs learning and sharing experiences from each other. But not only that, we do have, each of us has a network of companies that work with us or that are part of our groups. So we intend to use that also to create networking opportunities. So it's networking opportunities for our companies among them, for the companies in the program among them, but also with companies in our network as Bpi France and as CDP. And of course, in Italy, we are partnering, the CDP are partnering with EIB, which is a program that has a lot of experience developing this kind of programs for larger companies, actually. But in this case, we are leveraging the experience and putting it in the service of SMEs. So I think this is going to be a very interesting program. We are all very excited about launching it, and I think I'm over my time, but I don't know, Simone, you have something to add? Did I say everything?
No, I think that I just want to confirm that we are very enthusiastic to do this first cross-border acceleration program with GDP, and we would like to make the most of it for the entrepreneurs who are going to join the program. So if you are a French or Italian entrepreneur and you want to join this new program, don't hesitate to contact either Bpi France or GDP. We'll be very glad to support you.
Non, c'est bon. Ah non, je vais pas déborder de 20 minutes.